So today we have to revise students the political science chapter 1 grade 10th power sharing. So this chapter revision we have to do first we have to understand the concept of power sharing, that what is the concept of power sharing. So the concept of providing permanent share of power. So here we are talking about the permanent share of power. So the concept of providing permanent share of power in the government to different communities and regions is termed as power sharing. So this is the very spirit of the democracy. In this system of the power sharing, the leaders and the people, they take care of the feeling and interest of different regions and different communities. And this is very essential. This is power sharing is very essential for growth and unity of a democratic country. So power sharing basically means the power is shared in the government with different communities or regions within the country is known as power sharing. And this is a very spirit of the democratic country, that we have to do power sharing. If we are saying we are democratic country, we have independent elections, we conduct elections in free and fair manner, in a regular manner, and we have given universal franchise to everyone in our country, then power sharing is also essential. So we have to do power sharing with different communities and regions in our country. So this is the concept of power sharing. And it will reduces the concept of power sharing. If we are doing power sharing, it reduces the conflict between various social divisions which are prevalent in the country. So if we will not do power sharing, then the majority community, they can suppress the minority in whichever way they want, but it will not be good for the unity and harmony of the country. The disruption will be there, conflicts will arise in the society if the minority community is exploited and we are not giving any interest to their feelings. So the strife, the tension will increase in such cases. Here the two case study is given in our chapter, which we have to see. The case study of Belgium and the Sri Lanka here. So in these two case studies, we have to see first of the ethnic composition of these two countries. Very small countries. These are democratic countries but very small countries, and we will see how these two countries, they have managed or they have not managed to handle their diversity. So now we will see the ethnic composition of these two countries. So first we have to see of Belgium. First of all, let's define ethnic. So ethnic means a social division based on shared culture. So a social division which is based on shared culture, common history and descent. So that is a ethnic, that is the meaning of ethnic. So now we have to see the ethnic composition of Belgium. If we see in Belgium, the northern portion of Belgium is known as Flemish region. The northern part of Belgium is known as Flemish region. And in that, 59% of Dutch speaking population is living. Flemish region, that is another part of the Belgium, very small country Belgium is. It is very small country, and like our state of Haryana, this is very small, and population also half of Haryana. That is the statistics of the Belgium. And the Belgium share borders with the four European countries: France, Netherlands, Germany and Luxembourg. So these are the countries with which Belgium shares a border, and very small country it is. And then population also area is also less than Haryana, and population also half than the population of our state Haryana. So the northern portion, Flemish region, that is 59% of Dutch population is living, and the southern portion, that is the Wallonia region, and in that 40% French speaking population is living, and 1% German speaking. 1% German speaking. That too also living in Wallonia region only. So 1% German population was speaking population living in Wallonia region only. So this is the ethnic composition, which is very complex of the Belgium. This is the ethnic composition: Flemish region 59% Dutch, Wallonia region 40% French population, and within the Wallonia region only 1% German speaking population was living in the Belgium. Now, the Brussels, that is the capital city of Belgium, it presents a very different situation. In that, 80% French population is there in the Brussels. In the Brussels, if we see what is special about Brussels, in that French-speaking people 80% and Dutch-speaking people 20%. So this is the condition of Brussels. So it is a very separate case of the separate position is there in the Brussels. Means the French, they were in minority in the country and they were in majority in the capital. And Dutch, they were in majority in the country but they were in minority in the capital. So this was the case of Belgium, and we have seen one division here. We have found the division is there on the basis of language. So we have seen the language division in the case of Belgium. So this is the case of Belgium now. So here the Dutch community, they used to dissent here. They were angry here. Why? Because all the economic benefits were given to the French community. They were more powerful, and all the economic benefits was gained by French community only. They were more powerful. They were in majority in capital, and they were more powerful also. And this thing was resented by the Dutch people because they were in majority in the country, but the condition was not good in the Brussels. So this was the case. But now if we see this condition, if you see this statistics, then very easily the Dutch community, they can establish their dominance over the minority community, that is the French people. So this can be done very easily, but we will see what kind of approach the Belgian leaders will adopt. So the second, now we have to see the case of Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, so very near to our southern coast of Tamil Nadu, that is the Sri Lanka is there. Then here if we see the Sri Lanka also, the problem was there, Sinhala community was there, and the Sinhala community, 74% of Sinhala community was there in the Sri Lanka. Then after that, 18% Tamil speaking people were there. Out of this 18%, 13% were the Sri Lankan Tamils and 5% were the Indian Tamils, and 7% Christians were there. And this Sri Lankan Tamils, mostly they were concentrated in north and east of the part of the country of the island. So now the what was the problem here in Sri Lanka? So this was the ethnic composition. Now if you see Sinhalas, they follow the religion of Buddhism. Sinhalese were mostly Buddhists. They were Buddhists. And now if you see here in the Sri Lanka, the language division is also there and religion division is also there. And Sinhala community, being in majority, they try to suppress their minority, that is the especially the Tamils and Sri Lankan Tamils basically. So now this was the condition of Sri Lanka. Now we have to see the majoritarian approach which was adopted by Sri Lanka. Now in Sri Lanka, you have seen that Sinhala community was in dominant position because of their proportion in the population, 74%, and they follow the religion Buddhism. Now Sri Lanka, when they got independence in 1948, then after that the Sinhala government, they formed the Sinhalese community, they formed the government, and 1956 act they have passed in which they have given all the preferences to the Sinhala community. So according to this act, Sinhalese was recognized as the official language. So they have given the status to their language only of the official language. Then they have adopted the preferential policy for all the Sinhala applicants. That is, wherever the jobs are there or admissions are there in universities, only it will be given to the Sinhala applicants. Then after that, state shall protect and foster Buddhism. So it was very specified, very much specified in the constitution that state will promote and protect only Buddhism. Now this act of 1956 created you can say hatred or the feeling of alienation among the Sri Lankan Tamils, because they thought that no one is taking care of our interests, none of the Sinhala leaders. So this policy, which was adopted by the Sinhala leaders, this is known as majoritarianism. Means this is a policy in which the majority community, they believe that they can rule the country in any way by disregarding the wishes of the minority community. That is, they can suppress the minority community in whichever way they want. So this is the policy of majoritarianism which was adopted by the Sri Lanka. Means the unitary form of government they were having, which was formed by the Sinhala community only. And all the preferences were given to Sinhalas only, one government, and all other units are subordinate to this government. So this was the case of Sri Lanka we have seen. Now the feeling of alienation was created among the Sri Lankan Tamils. They started protesting. They started also demanding government positions and jobs, and they also wanted that at least the Tamil Ilam, that is the state, should be created in their regions, that is north and east region, where the more proportion of the Sri Lankan Tamils were there in the country. So they wanted that regional autonomy should be given to the Sri Lankan Tamils in north and east part of the country, wherever their proportion of population is more. But this kind of demands were not accepted by the Sinhala leaders. So demands were rising from the Sri Lankan Tamils. So they started forming the protest movements. Okay, protest started, agitation started. They grouped themselves into the organization. Then after that, 1983 onwards, the civil war started in Sri Lanka. So why civil war started in Sri Lanka? Because the majority community suppressed the interest of the minority community. The minority community, they feel alienated in their own country only. So this led to the civil war period from 1983 to 2009 in Sri Lanka, and the worst impact was there of this civil war on the Sri Lankan culture and economy. Impact was very bad. So when civil war is happening, when civil war is a war between the people within the nation who support the different ideologies, So here the civil war was between Sinhalese on the one hand and the Sri Lankan Tamils on the other hand. Then, due to this civil war, lot of destruction was there in the Sri Lanka, and lot of refugee problem. People migrated. Lot of refugee problem, disruption was there, and if this kind of conditions are there, so please understand here the majority community is able to suppress the minority in a short run, but in a long run, this kind of policies will undermine the unity of the majority community also. So these kind of policies obviously will affect the quality of life, economy, production, peace, harmony in the country. So the terrible setback this Sri Lankan civil war had on its culture and on the economy also. So this was the case of Sri Lanka. We have seen a very arrogant approach was adopted by the Sinhala leaders, that they were not able to handle their diversity. This only we can say, very arrogant approach was adopted by the Sinhala leaders, and they were not able to handle their diversity. The next we have seen the case of Belgium. But in the case of Belgium, they adopted the policy of accommodation. A very mature approach was shown by the European leaders, that is the Belgian leaders. They amended their constitution 4 times from 1970 to 1993 in order to work on such kind of arrangement where all the language speaking groups, different language speaking group, can live in peace and harmony. Like they have given that in the so what are the features of Belgian model now? They have made the provision that in the central government the equal number of ministers will be there of both the language, that is French and Dutch. So this is the arrangement, equal number of ministers. Then after that, the next provision was that no community, why this arrangement was done, so that no community can take the decision unilaterally. Then after that, Belgium moved from unitary to the federal system. More authority, more autonomy was given to the state government, regional governments, and regional governments will not be subordinate to the central government. Then after that, in Brussels also, there was a separate government in which the French and the Dutch, they will also have equal representation. Now, French people accepted representation of the Dutch people in the Brussels, because the Dutch people have accepted the representation in the central government of the French people. So harmony, peace, compromise, adjustments will work here, and there will be the third kind of government will be the community government. A community government where each language group will elect it wherever they are living. Apart from that, irrespective of that, and they will take care of all their educational, language related issue, which were culture related issue, will be taken care by the community government. So this kind of model, though it was very complicated, but still this kind of model was made by the Belgian leaders, and it shows the very mature approach of the Belgians, that how they have to accommodate their diversity, that they have to live in harmony at all the cost. So due to this Belgian leader, due to the approach which was shown by this Belgian people, Brussels was chosen as the headquarter of the European Union. So this was about the case study of Sri Lanka and Belgium.